Hello, welcome back to Book Nerd TV. As a participant in the BookTube Prize, I have been dedicating myself to finishing the books. I think I have one book left to go and I will be done. My goal is to be done by Sunday. At the very latest, but hopefully I can knock out the very last book tomorrow. And for some reason I've got a bird chirping, so A Woman of No Importance is my last book that I have to finish. I finished Underland earlier today. So I'm fairly on track, maybe a little further behind than I'd like to be, because I think ideally I would have loved to have been finished by like today. But things and events have occurred, of course, that has just thrown my focus and my attention off. And the discipline that I have for reading the books is the thing that I've been able to maintain. My discipline for actually putting up videos started to slip. So, of course, my intention is to continue to put up videos. They may be a little more erratic in the very near future until I can settle myself and settle my mind and allow myself to focus a little more on the creative process. I feel that reading has been a very good way for me to take my mind away from the things that I'm worried about and anxious about and put it in reading these books. So the BookTube Prize has been really beneficial for me in that aspect. However, other things have just taken a back seat, and that, I guess, is to be expected. I'm not doing BookTube for any other reason than it's a nice hobby to have. It's something that I enjoy doing. It is a good outlet for me, for my creativity, such as it is. And I don't want to lose that in the tidal wave of anxiety that we're all feeling at this point in our lives. The pandemic has forced all of us to reorganize, redirect, to change the way our everyday reality flows, to change the way we relate to the world and to other people. The pandemic has required us to face our mortality, for some of us to consider our mortality perhaps for the first time. Or it may have us considering the mortality of our parents, of our siblings, of our children, of our grandparents, of our friends, of people in our social network, whether they are large networks or whether they are smaller networks. And this isn't a way of thinking, this isn't a way of dealing with life that we in the United States and probably most Western countries have had to relate to life on a daily basis, to always consider how our actions may affect and indeed endanger the people around us, the people we care about. So in our new reality of social distancing, of working from home, of collapsing our social sphere to a very small group of people, which may only be your immediate family, which if you're a single person may be just yourself. For some people, probably for most people, that kind of immediate reduction is very disorienting. And I relate it to being a person who works at a job for however many years and you are finally able to retire. not that I personally relate to this at all, but when you look forward to being able to retire and you retire and it's glorious for the first month, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to be anywhere. But then the reality of that greatly reduced social circle hits you, and it is disorienting, and it can be even a little depressing. Or in some cases, it can be a really very, very depressing. So as we move through this time and make our adjustments, I feel that we really have to be very patient with ourselves, patient with those who are around us. We have to show compassion to ourselves and compassion to those around us. And we have to make sure that we take the steps necessary to keep ourselves safe, to keep our family members safe, especially if you have family members who have compromised health situations. Let's remember to be very mindful about how we're interacting with those people and with other people as we go through our day. Again, a lot of us may be at home. We go out to the grocery store, or we go out to the pharmacy, or we go out to get gas, or those are some of the reasons that you might have to leave home. But we know that we have to reduce how much we interact with the outer world to make sure that we keep ourselves and our families and friends and neighbors as safe as possible. I found that I have to reduce how much news that I take in and try to reduce that down to just those sources that are reliable and are communicating correct information about the situation, whether it's nationwide, worldwide, or just even within your state and quite possibly within your city. So that's how I've helped to reduce all of the information that is streaming, towards your eyeballs and entering your brain. For me, it was just a case of overload because, of course, this is something major that's never really happened in our lifetime to this scale, certainly. And I say that as a Gen X person who are, for some reason, always looked over in the media, but that's a whole other rant for a whole other day. But certainly in the lifetime of a Gen Xer, this sort of a pandemic has not happened in the United States. I'm not saying that things haven't happened in other countries, but I'm going to keep it United States for my conversation or for my purposes. And so we're dealing with something that we haven't had to deal with in this country, like I said, since the pandemics of the influenza virus back in 1917, 1918 or so. So this is new territory for us as people in the United States. And as such, we're in this really difficult time of adjusting to, I don't know why I'm doing this. We're all finding ourselves having to adjust to a new normal, and that new normal is not comfortable, is slightly terrifying in a lot of aspects, but we have to go on. I think whatever you do to help you minimize your distress, minimize your anxiety, helps. Not to say that it's not there, but just to deal with the fact that you are feeling what you're feeling. And those feelings are real. And whether you think they're reasonable or whether you think they're an overreaction, I think it is probably a good idea to notice that you're feeling what you're feeling, feel it. You don't necessarily have to act on it. You don't necessarily have to go out and panic buy everything or panic shop online or panic at all. But if you feel that sense of panic, it is understandable because there are so many unknowns right now for everybody. So I'm not discounting anything that you're feeling, but just know that you are likely not the only person feeling this way, and that it is important that you find ways to help you settle your mind, calm those anxieties, reduce your panic, whatever that is for you, whether it's walking, keeping the appropriate distance away from people as you walk, whether it's doing yoga in your home, which, by the way, if you've never seriously contemplated doing yoga before, now may be a very good time for you to look into finding a beginner yoga practice and maybe starting from there. And when I say beginner yoga, I truly mean beginner yoga. If you've never done yoga before, if you're not a very fit person to begin with, beginner yoga is where you need to start. That is someplace that you can look to help you with your anxiety or your panic or whatever it is you're feeling. It would also probably be a good idea to find a practice where they start where you're seated and you're breathing, just to help you bring yourself into the present moment and breathe. And if you're wondering why I'm going on and on about yoga, it's because I teach yoga when there's not a pandemic happening in the country. So it's been something that I've done for over 20 years, which clearly means I started when I was 3. But I have found that yoga has helped me through some of the tougher seasons of my life, and this is certainly one where the practice is coming in handy. If yoga doesn't float your boat, you can try mat Pilates. Mat Pilates is another way that you can keep your body healthy. You have to breathe a particular way. There are beginner Pilates videos on YouTube. If you're interested in doing something like that, search, find, remember, beginner level, especially if 1, never done Pilates before, or 2, you're not very fit to begin with. Beginner level. You have to start somewhere, so start where you are. Very important, because you don't want to hurt yourself at this time, right? You want to stay healthy. You want to keep yourself as calm as possible. And so those are 2 ways that you can possibly exercise your body, help calm your mind, and give you something to do on a daily basis. If it is at all possible for you to incorporate something like this in your life, now is a great time to incorporate, whether it's yoga, whether it's Pilates, whether it's some other kind of body weight exercise that you don't necessarily need to, 1, leave your house, or 2, have particular equipment for. Now is a good time to incorporate that into your life if it's something that you think you might be interested in, if you think that it's something that might be helpful to you. I realize I didn't talk very much about books today at all, but I think I have been stuck in my video making process because I've wanted to have this conversation, and I think until I could have this conversation, the other things just weren't going to flow. So hopefully I'm breaking through this creative block that I found myself in, and I understand, and thanks Shannon, I understand that it's okay, right? It's okay. It's YouTube or BookTube is not something that I do for a profession. It is something that is a hobby, and it's not something that I have to do. It is something that I like to do, and it is something that I want to continue doing. So this particular conversation will not be the last, I'm quite sure. If you have any questions or comments, really, that you'd like to add to my discussion, please feel free to put them in the comment section below. I really greatly appreciate it. Remember to be safe, be kind, be patient and compassionate, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.